I'm Evelyn, and I'm a geoholic.
All right. Welcome back, Geoholics, episode 236, if you can believe that. 236, as producer Sean would normally say right about now. But producer Sean's not with us this evening. He is being an amazing father. It is, of course, Halloween that we're recording, and he's with his lovely daughter, trick-or-treating and doing all that fun stuff and having a driveway party and getting drunk and all the stuff that parents do on Halloween. So in his stead, we have the one and only Russ Hall. Russ, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Just getting back from a trip over in Panama.
Panama?
Visit some
What the heck were you doing in Panama?
Visiting some work colleagues.
Nice.
I did fall ill. I ate a tuna wrap out of a vending machine in Terminal C.
You deserve to get ill. Who would do that?
A hungry person. That's what I keep telling everyone at my work when they ask me. But it's a beautiful country, and I'm wearing for Halloween. I'm wearing the jersey.
Ah, nice.
Yes, Josoi cool. Topografo.
Oh, very cool, very cool. But it was a good experience all in all.
Yes, it's a beautiful country.
Nice, and you were there for work, right?
Yes, mostly.
Mostly work. A little bit of pleasure mixed in. Nice.
Yes, take a little bit of the sights in. So.
Good for you. Good for you. The idea of eating a tuna wrap out of a vending machine is making me ill as I think about it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were smarter than that, Russ, but I gave you way too much credit, apparently.
Yes, I'm sorry. Well, on that note, how have you been?
I've been good. Yeah, it's been a really busy week. End of our fiscal year when it comes to my full-time job today, as a matter of fact. So been just crazy the last few weeks, closing out things and getting contracts signed and all that fun stuff. And as far as the podcast goes, this is our second episode this week. And then Sean and I are going to be at a local event on Saturday podcasting, which we're pretty excited about. So a lot of really cool things happening. Just FYI for anybody listening, we are getting ready to release our Friends of the Program opportunities for 2025. And if anybody listening is interested, please shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. We'll be sending out our prospectus and everything. And every year we just get more and more professional. It's pretty amazing what has happened over the course of 5 years, no doubt about it. But we're in a really good place right now. And like I said, if anybody listening is interested in being a supporter of the show, we'd love to talk to you. Other than that, that's about it, really. So let's get on with this. We got a great conversation lined up this evening. So real quick, let's go with the NLC Prep Song of the Week. To find out more about NLC Prep, go to nlcprep.com. And of course, NLC Prep is for those dedicated to passing their land surveying exams on the very first try. And if you're listening to this episode, hopefully you've listened to the previous episode, which was Dr. Tony Nettleman, of course, the brains behind NLC Prep. We had a great conversation with him, and he's just doing a lot of really cool stuff. So anyways, Russ, what do you got for us this week?
So
this requires reading, Russ.
Oh, okay. So the song of the week?
Yes.
The Police, Next to You. The Police were a British rock band formed in London, in case you didn't know that, in 1977, consisting of lead vocalist and bassist Sting, guitarist Andy Summers, and drummer Stuart Copeland. Known for their unique blend of rock, reggae, and punk influences, they quickly rose to prominence for their distinctive sound and Sting's signature vocals. Their breakthrough album, Outlandos d'Amour, in 1978, included hits like The Perennial Roxanne and Can't Stand Losing You, which established them as one of the defining bands of the late 1970s and early 80s. The Police remain influential for their innovative fusion of genres and are celebrated as one of the best-selling bands of all time.
Oh yeah, great band. One of my favorite bands in my formidable years. That would be in the '80s. That's aging myself, of course. But huge fan of the Police. Saw 'em probably. I guess I've seen them 3 times. Every time's been incredible. So yeah, huge fan. And shockingly, out of almost 300 shows, first time I believe we've used a Police song. So when I saw that one of our guests this evening was a Police fan, I'm like, boom, we're using Police. So awesome. We are in the David Evans and Associates studio this evening. What sets DEA apart, even more than the quality of their work, is the quality of their relationships and the commitments they make. The DEA difference is reflected in 6 commitments and the seriousness with which they make them. Clarity of expectations, effective communication, accountability, collaboration and teamwork, initiative and creativity, and most importantly, trust. Together, these commitments create authentic, meaningful relationships, effective solutions, and superior client experiences, which are the hallmark of the DEA difference. To find out more, simply go to deainc.com. All right, moving on. Next up is the Geomax Weekly Service Pro Tip. To find out more about Geomax, go to geomax-positioning.com. Russ, you're up, buddy.
Alrighty, so this is to all you introverts out there, and there's many introverts in the surveying profession. Yes. The life is beautiful not because of the things we see or the things we do. Life is beautiful because of the people we meet.
Aw.
By Simon Sinek?
Simon Sinek. Yeah, do you not know who he is?
I do not know who he is.
Dude. Wow. Okay. All right.
I told you.
After the show,
main character syndrome.
Google this guy. Yes, you're going to love him. He's awesome. Really, really good. So we'll let that one go. Won't hold that one against you. But yeah, really cool quote. You know, kind of a little bit different, but short and sweet to the point. And yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense for sure.
Does.
It's all about the people you meet, the relationships you build. I tell my daughters all the time, it's like, listen, you cannot meet enough people in your lifetime. So don't be afraid to talk to people. Unless they look like zombies or something. Don't talk to them.
Yeah.
Next up, the GeoSearch Career Corner. Today, we're sharing professional pointers to streamline the talent search. First up, define the position clearly, outline requirements and preferred skills upfront, and set a salary range to ensure you are working with the right candidates.
Next, precision sourcing is key. Anticipate future talent needs, research referrals, identify competitors, and utilize platforms like LinkedIn and job boards to find the best fit. When it comes to the interview, preparation is paramount, Kent. Collaborate with other interviewers, ask unique questions, and keep the conversation engaging and natural.
Paramount. That's a powerful word.
It is.
Don't forget salary negotiations. Walk the candidate through the offer. Highlight the big picture, team culture, and exciting perks. Paint a vivid picture of their future with your company. And remember, you're not alone. If you need assistance, the GeoSearch team is here to help. Visit their website at geosearch.com for more information. And I have to mention that GeoSearch has already signed up to be a friend of the program for 2025. So we're excited to have them back. All right, let's get on with this. We're moving right along here, Russ.
Yes.
You and I are very efficient together. I got to talk to Sean about this.
We got a whole who's on first thing going on this report.
I know. It's like we've done this before, even though we haven't. All right, let's get our guests in here. Our guests, of course, are presented by Airworks. To find out more about Airworks, go to airworks.io. Airworks' mission is to provide that data intelligence that powers the built world. Again, airworks.io. Check those guys out. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick brief intro of these guys, then we're going to let them get in here and add some value to this conversation. We've got Craig Williams. He is a professional surveyor. He's born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. He attended Purdue University at Indianapolis and Indiana Wesleyan. He is the sales manager for Leica Direct Sales team in the U.S., and his passion, thank goodness, is helping surveyors become more profitable. We also have Brian. I should ask you how to say your last name. Elbe?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Also a surveyor, born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, attended University Cincinnati State, and University of Cincinnati. He is the manager of direct sales AT at Leica, and his passion is reality capture and survey technology advancements that help our customers. Guys, welcome to the Geoholics. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Yes.
Well, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. Been looking forward to this. We've been trying to get this one on the books for a while, and we finally made it happen. So before we let you talk, we gotta make you squirm a little bit with an icebreaker. Of course, it's the Trimble Geospatial Icebreaker. To find out more, go to geospatial.trimble.com. They are dedicated to big thinking innovation. Okay, Craig, you're going to be first. Of these three sandwiches, and this was like the OG icebreaker question we started using 5 years ago. Grilled cheese, sloppy Joe, or peanut butter and jelly. If you had to eat one for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
I'd have to say peanut butter and jelly.
Can't go wrong.
You don't have to cook anything. You can put it in your pocket. You can on it.
Pocket. Yes.
You can throw it in your backpack for
Yes.
3 days and still eat it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. PB&J all the way.
I'm a big fan, no doubt. What about Uncrustables? Do you like those?
A couple of years ago, my son and I went out to Glacier National Park. I only mention that because we lived on Uncrustables for about 4 days. Every hike that we took, we flew out there, so we didn't have a lot of gear. And it's like, let's get a whole box of frozen Uncrustables, put them in the backpack, off the trail. So
my problem with Uncrustables is I have no patience, and I end up eating them as ice cube.
I know exactly. I
it's a little crunchy. Yeah, it can be a little crunchy at first. You have to have some patience.
You do, indeed. All right, Brian, same question.
I'm going to have to agree with Craig. I'm going to go with PB&J. Grilled cheese, you got to prepare. And so it's the same with sloppy Joe, where PB&J is just like I can be out in the woods and make it. I can survive on it. And like Craig said, but I'm going to disagree on the Crustables, on the Uncrustables, whatever they're called. I am not a big fan of those. They feed my daughter's in college, and she plays softball. Yeah. And they feed them those in between games when they're playing on the weekends. And I'm like, how do you guys eat those? They're so nasty. And she's like, I don't really like to eat them, but I'm so hungry I got to eat something. So,
yeah, for sure. Definitely. It's probably for me, it's like one of the top 5 things you can buy at Costco is a box of those suckers.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Russ? What say you?
I could eat a grilled cheese sandwich even if I just had Thanksgiving dinner. There's no world that exists that I won't eat, especially you put it with tomato soup.
Oh,
goated.
Jeez, it's the best.
Oh,
it's the
comfort
best.
Food to the max.
1,000%.
But I love peanut butter and jelly too. And this grosses my wife out, but have you ever done this? You put a layer of like Cape Cod chips and then you crunch them down on top of it. Oh, with a little texture to it. Salty.
Yes. Yep.
So she thinks I'm a madman for doing that, but
that sounds amazing. I used to crunch like Ruffles potato chips on my bologna sandwiches.
Mm-hmm. Same thing. I do the same thing. Yep. It's a texture.
Yeah. Texture, exactly. And the salt, like you said.
Yep.
So I'm curious, Craig and Brian, if you didn't have to prepare it and they were just readily available to you, would your answer still be PB&J?
Grilled cheese was a tough second choice for me.
Yeah.
I can do grilled cheese about any time. And yes, tomato soup and grilled cheese, throw some bacon on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make one when I get home tonight.
Well, I already had a grilled cheese tonight. So with tonight, Halloween,
oh my God.
And we're on the Eastern time zone. I made some turkey chili and some grilled cheese for dinner because it's easy and everybody can kind of eat, at their own will when I have to start handing out candy. So
Awesome. Yeah, for me, I guess I'll be different, but all 3 of those, I mean, this is a really tough choice, but I love sloppy joes, no doubt about it. I could eat those for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I swear to God, especially a good one. It's got to be a good one, of course, but man, oh man, all good. All like you said, just comfort food for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on with this. Okay. So we got a lot to talk about here. And the first question I have is, there's Leica, there's Hexagon. Talk about the relationship between the two so that our listeners have an understanding of what that looks like.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Craig.
Well, I mean, overall, Hexagon is our parent company. They own quite a few companies, of course, all focused around geospatial intelligence, whether that's autonomous solutions, manufacturing intelligence, anything where you're really an XYZ in motion needs to be tracked and extract some intelligence from that. So
Yeah,
there's
for
quite
sure.
a few divisions.
So I'm curious. So like Leica's been around forever. Like, back in the day, the old cameras, the optics are second to none. So did Hexagon at some point like acquire the Leica brand, or how did this come to be?
Yeah, they only acquired the Geosystems group of Leica.
Gotcha.
So there's Leica Biosystems and Microsystems and Geosystems, and they were all they're owned by different companies now. Hexagon bought the Geosystems group back in 2005. And it's kind of funny that this is a good first question, because a lot of times when we go to some shows, like I was just at a public safety conference about a week and a half ago, and people were walking by and they'd walk up to the booth and they're like, "Oh, you guys are a Leica dealer," and it's like, because we're in a Hexagon booth, and it's like, no, we are Leica, and we get that quite a bit. I would say if you get outside of the surveying realm, because I think most surveyors kind of understand that Hexagon owns Leica, but when you get into some of these other shows that we go to, there's a lot of people that don't really realize what Hexagon is, and they just don't know. So
yeah, exactly. I'm glad you guys cleared that up. What you got, Russ?
I believe it's almost like carbon dating. If you notice, if you're familiar with Leica equipment, they always had that very familiar green color, even on the scanners. And the moment that they switched to the gray color or the blue, that's like when they acquired. Hexagon bought them. If I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken.
Not quite. So the first gray scanner that I'm aware of was the P40.
Which is Hexagon.
No. Hexagon was 2005 when they acquired. So in 2005, you still had two versions of scanners from Leica back then. You still had the old HDS, and you had the scan stations, and after that, you had the C10 and the P20. The P20 was the last green scanner, which was around the 2012 timeframe.
That's right. Yeah, because the Scan Station 2 was gray, and that was Okay, so but close.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't remember if the Scan Station 2 was gray or not, to be honest.
I love that little thing. It was a little tank. I love that thing.
That's like all Leica equipment, though. Like the stuff is indestructible, right? I mean, it's so reliable, and I mean, it's just it's a tank, just like you said. Yeah. So I'm curious, how long have each of you been with Leica? And Craig, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I joined Leica right at the end of 2014, so I'm coming up on 10 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Brian?
I was about a year after Craig. I joined in 2015. So
nice.
I think both of our stories are probably a little different in terms of how we came about, joining Leica, but we were pretty close to each other. Like I said, Craig joined about a year before me.
Okay. And at one point I thought Russ worked at Leica, but he just uses so much Leica that he appears to work there. I don't know.
We have a very close relationship, myself and Leica.
Yeah, I see that. I was we were at Intergeo this year, and of course went to the Leica party, which was off the charts, ridiculously amazing. And we're standing there, and here's this wall of pictures, and Sean looks over, he goes, "That's freaking Russ. There's a picture of Russ on the wall." I was like, what in the hell? So I take a picture of it and I send it to him. Like, what is going on here, Russ? Like, you're somebody in the Leica family, that's for sure.
Somebody loves me.
So in your individual roles, Craig, so talk a little bit about what you do, more specifically at Leica.
Yeah, so and you guys may or may not know, a lot of customers don't know, at Leica we have really two ways of getting our products to customers. We have a dealer channel, and then we also have direct sales reps who work directly for Leica and sell directly to the end user. So I manage our direct sales team. There's about 11 guys that report to me. I really report to them. It sounds funny. I'm sure Brian feels the same way. They're out. They are really out doing God's work, and we are just supporting them on the back. I manage the direct sales team, and we've got guys in California, on the East Coast, and the Midwest, kind of spread out, and so that's who I look after.
Nice. Okay, how about you, Brian?
So I'm very similar to Craig. The only difference between the two of us is I manage the East Coast reality capture group. So I only have about 5 guys that I manage. There's another 5 people out west that a different manager takes care of. And like I said, we're on the reality capture side, but all of our direct reality capture reps work pretty much hand in hand with all of our geomatics reps, which is what Craig handles. So.
Okay, fair enough.
So are you saying I really got 15? Is that what you're saying?
Who's managing who? That's what I want to know.
Does Seth work for you then? Seth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Seth works for me.
I gotcha. Okay. Seth's a very good friend of mine. He's helped me with a lot of innovation in reality capture. I bug him all the time. Yeah.
You know what's funny about that, Russ, is I met Seth years ago when he was living in Florida. Mm-hmm. And when we were hiring for the Northeast, his name came up from our internal recruiter. And I'm like, this guy lives in Florida. Like, he can't, cover the Northeast from Florida. She's like, no, he lives in the Northeast. I'm like, no, I just literally met him down in Florida like a year ago. And she's like, no, he moved. And I'm like, oh, well, I did not know that. So,
small world, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So talk a little bit about, what it's like to, be a part of the Leica family, pull back the curtain just a little bit, whether it be a little bit about the company from a leadership perspective or the company culture, what makes you guys different?
I'll go first this time since Craig went first. From my standpoint, I think Leica's just it's a great place to work. I mean, that was what attracted me here a long time ago, because I came from the consulting side of the business. So I used to work for a civil survey firm, and we got heavily involved in reality capture, and I kind of, took over that side of the business and started working a little bit more with some of the direct reps and got to, talk to them and listen and kind of just like admire, like, hey, there's a lot of really good people, a lot of really smart people that worked at Leica. And I think, one of the great things about working here from the sales perspective is we do have a lot of autonomy. And I think Craig would probably say the exact same thing. Most of us are all, working from home. I mean, we don't report to an office every day. So if we're not traveling, we work from home. Which is really nice. You're kind of in control of somewhat of your own schedule. I mean, there are times where we have to be certain places. But I think the other thing too is we're not really that top heavy like some organizations tend to be. Craig and I both answer to the vice president of direct sales, and the vice president of direct sales turns around and he reports directly to the president of Leica US, right? So there's not a lot of what I would say top heavy stuff on that end. We have a pretty easy going. I would say it's just we're not micromanaged, I guess is an easy way to put it. We're very autonomous and we're able to do things that we need to do to get the job done and to support our customers. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good, Craig.
Yeah, Brian's exactly right. We're a very flat organization, and we're all autonomous. Like Brian said, everybody really that reports to me is remote, of course. Our technical support team is all remote, and I feel like Leica does a good job of hiring the right people and then getting out of their way. And your role. That. This is your job, and we have a lot of freedom to make our own decisions as we go along. And if you're, doing something ethical and it's legal and it's profitable for the company and the customer, you got 100% support. So I like that.
Brian, you mentioned that both of you guys are professional surveyors. Brian, it sounds like you had a career prior to coming to Leica, as a practicing surveyor. Craig, is it safe to assume you were a practicing surveyor at some point?
Yeah.
And you guys are both kind of on the other side now, catering to surveyors, basically. Talk a little bit about the difference and what you like about being on the side that you guys are on currently. Craig, why don't you go first?
Yeah. I think what drew me to sales, not unlike surveying, like a lot of surveyors, I fell into surveying while thinking I was going to be an engineer. Found out surveying was way more fun. And sales was kind of that. Really, sales was that way for me as well. I always enjoyed getting the summer interns and, kind of training these guys and really explaining to them the way I was lucky in my early career. My first two party chiefs were PLSs. And, I assumed being young into the profession back in the day that that's the way everybody operated. I didn't know I was really fortunate to have a PLS as a party chief. And, I got a good education from those men in, why do you take the longest back site? Not just, hey, we need a back site, we're going to turn over here. But, I would get a lot of that explanation that went along the theory. And so that really resonated with me. And I tried to do that with my younger, field guys back in the day. And then, going into sales kind of allowed me to really do that on a bigger scale, full time, really kind of be that professional sales / teacher / consultant. And I found that it suited me. I never thought I'd be in sales. I thought that was a dirty word. I'm like, a salesperson.
Yeah.
I kind of got tricked because the first guy that hired me said, I need a technical rep.
Sure.
I really need a technical support person. And I thought, what is that? Back in the day with your SDR 33, you got a manual, and if you had a problem, you just looked it up in the manual until you punched the right button. There was no technical support necessarily, people to call.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I stumbled into sales.
Yeah, that's cool because it's kind of like you said, it's the best of both worlds for you. You get to utilize your X amount of years of experience, practicing as a professional surveyor, and having that wisdom in the tank for when you're talking to potential customers as well. So I would think that's almost invaluable in the position you're in right now to have had that experience, being a practicing surveyor.
I'm not going to say that people flock to on my team. I have three out of 8 guys are licensed surveyors. And it's not like, oh my gosh, they are so much more successful than the non-surveying guys by any means. But it does let you have some conversations sometimes with especially new clients. At least we share a common language and understanding of what your deliverable is and what the challenges are, and it kind of puts you on an equal footing somewhat, and lets you really dive into what issues they might have and how technology can help them.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And, Brian, Craig probably stole a little bit of your thunder there, but talk about, the value that, you having have had the experience, being a practicing surveyor. How does that benefit you in your role?
I think it does benefit in some ways, right? Because like Craig said, when you go into a brand new customer or even existing customer, and I'll give 2 examples. Like, with a new customer, you go in the room, and I think if they know that you're a licensed land surveyor, they automatically give you that credibility. That especially when you've come from the side that they're trying to go to, right? Like if they're trying to get into reality capture and they know everything that you've done prior to then, and you're a licensed land surveyor, they're like, okay, we can do this too, right? Where I think from the other side, I've had customers who in the past, like I would email them and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to be in town. I'd love to come see you. And they'd be like, we're good. And it was just like, I think they were just like, he's just our sales guy, right? And we came out with a new piece of equipment with one particular customer. And I emailed him. I said, hey, this is a little bit different than the other pieces of equipment you've used in the past. And, it might be a good idea for me to come by the office and just kind of show you some differences. And he was like, yeah, you know what? That sounds good. And I'm like, man, I've been trying to go to this guy's office for like a year and a half. So I finally go there and I give the guys my card, and the guy looks at my card and he goes, oh, you're a licensed land surveyor. And I'm like, yeah, didn't you look at any of my email signatures for the last year and a half? He's like, no, I really don't pay attention to those. And after that, every time I contact him, he's like, oh yeah, come on in the office. We'd love to have you in, So I think it definitely helps to some extent, but like Craig said, I don't think it's an absolute necessity. I mean, we have plenty of guys on both sales teams that are not licensed that, maybe they have a survey background, maybe they have a background in GIS. But we basically look for folks that, know the equipment and know how to use it, and we can teach them the sales side of things. So, I mean, I like Craig, never envisioned ever being a salesperson in my entire life. And when I first started here, I told myself, I was like, you know what, I got to at least give it 12 to 18 months. And I can tell you for the first 12 months, I second guessed myself every day. Like, did I really make the right decision? And it wasn't until after that 12 months where I was finally like, you know what, I think I can actually do this.
This portion of the program is sponsored by our good friends at Diamondback Land Surveying. Diamondback Land Surveying was born out of a vision. TK having a vision. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
I can't imagine how that could have happened. A vision to create a company that would redefine excellence in the land surveying profession. He can check that box. Definitely. Great seeing him at Geo Week, by the way.
It was great.
Always good to catch up with TK.
And today they stand proud, having transformed that vision into a reality. Over the years, they have not only shaped the landscape of our industry, but also forged lasting relationships with our cherished clients, supportive friends, and invaluable employees.
Indeed. Looking ahead into the future, it is bright for Diamondback Land Surveying. Of course it is, with TK at the helm. They stand poised to embrace new technologies, adopt innovative methodologies, and continue pushing the boundaries of excellence in their field.
Yeah, their commitment to providing exceptional service, fostering long-term partnerships, and leading with integrity remains unwavering. To find out more, visit www.diamondbacklandsurveying.com.
That's awesome. And it's like, you guys you're not just salespeople. You're like Craig alluded to, you guys are, mentors, you're teachers, you're adding value in so many different ways. You're not like a sleazy car salesman, it's like, we're here, of course, to try to sell you something, but at the same time, we have all of this, wisdom and experience to back up what we're telling you. And, being a professional surveyor, I would think just, ups the level of credibility for sure.
And we learn, I'm sure Brian does too, I learn stuff from my customers all the time.
Sure. Yep.
A new wrinkle on how to process data, whatever it is, or, hey, we had this really weird application where we wanted to use a hydro boat and we also wanted to add this piece and we wanted to see if we could get this data in real time and we want to output it to a third-party software that, we're messing around with. And, you pick up a lot of those things and sometimes we're like bees. We're cross-pollinating. We take that information that we learned on a science project with one customer, and another customer may have the same question, and maybe they haven't investigated it enough. Maybe they're just not quite connecting the dots. And you're like, well, what about if you try this? And suddenly that might be the little last missing link they were looking for. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll buy that third-party software because it bridges the gap between whatever software I'm using in the office, in the field, or whatever the case may be, some unusual application. So, that's always fun too. We learn things a lot from our customers.
Sure. Yeah. It goes both ways, no doubt. So let's talk about some of the technology. Brian, you're obviously on as you mentioned, like more on the reality capture side of things, which, reality capture has really come on the scene here over the last, I don't know, Russ, what would you say? I'd say 3 or 4 years, but maybe it goes back further than that.
Yeah, I'd say 10 years. The past 3 or 4 years has exploded with, UAV and SLAM and mobile scannings, right? Terrestrial scanner's been a while, but that was always more vertical focused. But now we're able to acquire so much data so easily for sites. Yeah, with those. Yeah, so 3-4 years, it's really popped off.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what are you seeing on that side of things, Brian? I mean, are a lot more true surveyors getting involved in the reality capture side? Because let's face it, this is a whole topic for another podcast, but you don't have to be a surveyor to get into reality capture, right? I mean, I think that being a surveyor and doing reality capture gives you more credibility, but it's not necessary. So talk about what you're seeing on that side of things.
So I think from the reality capture side, surveyors were definitely like the first to grab scanning. I'm going to say scanning because that's what it really started out as, right? And they were the first group to really grab a hold of it and take it. I mean, I started scanning in about 2008 was when we introduced it at the company that I was at previously. And I think that really what's changed since then is, once Autodesk and Bentley and all those other people got on board and started saying, hey, yeah, we're bringing this stuff into our software, that's what really started bringing it to the masses, right? And I think since I've been involved in it, I've noticed a couple different things that have changed. Because like when we first got in, the software lagged behind so badly. Like you could collect all these points, but every day in the field you spent like a day of registration, and then you had to spend many more days pulling data and extracting all this stuff, and it was kind of painful. And then you went through this phase where the software kind of caught up, and the software really got better. And I think when the software got better, you started to see even more surveyors pour into the market, right? And then I would say after the software caught up, the hardware kind of outpaced the software again. And like Russ said, you started involving mobile reality capture, both indoors and outdoors. And again, it outpaced everything else. And I think as the equipment has gotten smaller and more usable, it's gotten even more to the masses, right? So now it's outside of surveying, and I remember a long time ago, a lot of surveyors were like, hey, what are we going to do? Because now all of our clients are buying these things as well. And it's like, well, you guys have a chance to capitalize on that in my mind. It's not just, hey, we're losing our customers now or our clients. You have a chance to capitalize and help them and guide them along the way and make them understand that, hey, this little scanner that you're buying may be good for certain things, but for other things it might not be. And I think, when you look at mobile mapping has really, I think, I agree with Russ, it's starting to get a lot bigger in the last 5 years, because prior to that, it was a very, very small group of people that were doing mobile mapping, and it's definitely larger.
I was a Pegasus 1 user, which was like a release candidate. It was a science experiment, but it was great. But I mean, the software has been so streamlined now.
Oh yeah. That software has, in the last 5 years, like I remember when I first got involved with mobile mapping here at Leica, we had like 5 different pieces of software that you had to run your stuff through, and now it's one, right? So it's definitely changed for the better from that side of things, and the processing is, I mean, with the new system that we have now, the TRK, you can, for all intents and purposes, pull the hard drive out, put it into your computer, and start pulling the line work because it's already processed. So it's definitely changed for the better in what we've had.
Can I just add one thing too? Kind of going off of what you said, I remember when scanners were very expensive and more difficult to use, like the ScanStation 2, right? You're talking a generator, you needed a laptop, the Panasonic Toughbook out there, and it was long. Now we've gotten to the point where, I mean, laborers are doing it on site, or these other companies. So I think it's a mindset change. You don't look at, I'm going to get this scanner to make money off the scans to sell to other people per se. You look at it like, I can get this scanner to accelerate my work, my survey work.
Right.
You can also look at it through that lens. The same thing with the drone. It's like commoditized, where those two scan technologies specifically. Yeah, so it's just you look at it differently, how to aid your own surveys.
Yeah, and I think most recently, honestly, what I've seen is with, let's be honest, there's a lack of not just, talented surveyors, but surveyors, period, right? And I think a lot of the companies that were not involved in reality capture before are starting to invest in the technology because they view it as a means to be able to do more work with less people, and that's the way we all have to work right now, because there are less people in the survey industry, and it's going to continue to decline, unfortunately, until we can start to convince the younger generations that this is a great profession to be a part of. So.
Yeah. So where are we at now, Brian, in the process? I mean, we have talked about it a number of times in the past on shows where, just like you mentioned, it's like the hardware takes a big step forward and then the software has to catch up, and then the hardware takes a step forward and the software has to catch up. Where do you think we're at right now?
I think we're getting to the point now to where the software is getting about dead even again with the hardware, at least in my mind. I mean, there's still some quirks that you got to work out, right? Because now the scanners are getting faster and faster again, right? So you're collecting up to 2 million points per second now, which, back when I started, it was like 5,000 points per second. It was like, this is fantastic. And now you're like 2 million, and it's like, okay, how are we handling all these points? Well, you still have to, I think the logjam still, at least in my mind, might be maybe a little bit on the import and export times, right? I think that's still not quite maybe where I think everybody wants it to be. But it's definitely gotten a lot better, especially, once the hardware surpassed the software again, and it was taking a while to do stuff, it's definitely minimized the gap, and it's getting really close to being, what I would consider to be acceptable, because it's kind of funny. And I know Russ will probably laugh at this, but when I go back and use an older scanner now, and I got to stand there for like a whole 5 minutes, I'm like, this is just ridiculous. This is way too long.
Yeah.
Because now scanners can scan in as little and take images in as little as 50 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, people have gotten impatient with the older scanners that they're still using them. And I've had customers tell me like, oh, my guys don't ever want to take that older scanner out. They always want to take the newer ones out. But we're like, hey, we need to use all of them. So
my favorite two things to do in the field were static campaigns, where like just sitting next to the receiver we used to have Trimble 5700s. You just sit out there for hours. And then when we worked with the scan station too, you'd pick the point you want to scan on a building. It'll be like, 35 minutes. Yep. Yeah. I'll go sit down in the shade.
Time to go eat lunch.
Yep. I used to love that. Yeah. Now everything's so fast.
Russ is laying on a hill working on his tan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Craig, you've been in this business for a while. What are some of the more recent advancements that just are like blow your mind?
Yeah, good question. On the traditional survey gear, the advances that have happened over probably 10 years or so have been, kind of incremental compared to. I mean, a robot can only track you so fast. We can't move that fast when we're out collecting topo, for example. So the advances in robotic technology have been minimal, but Leica does continue to advance. I was doing a little presentation at a chapter meeting a few years ago, and it's kind of a minor thing, but Leica introduced auto height on our total stations several years ago. You just press a button on the instrument, millimeter accuracy, you got your HI. You didn't type it in, you didn't fat finger it. It's there. There's no argument about it. And I remember a couple guys in the presentation using a different brand. They're like, "What? You can just press a button and measure your HI on your?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It was kind of just an offhand comment. Like I assumed everybody knew that was available. And to this day, Leica is still the only manufacturer that offers that. And you can see these other guys going, "Man, those times when was that 457, 475? What was that HI? Oh, nothing's matching. We didn't write it down in a field book. How do we correct it?" It was kind of a funny thing. So that to me, that's a little incremental change that Leica is always saying, "Hey, we've got a good mousetrap. What can we do to make it better?" We're using artificial intelligence in our instruments. The EDM power is constantly fluctuating on our total stations because it's foggy, it's raining, it's bright sunlight, it's overcast. If the EDM is always sending out the same power, you could get some bad measurements. We all know that. So the software internally in the instrument, the physical box is still the same. The motor speed, the turning angle speeds are kind of the same, but we're diving into it deeper through software, and it's pretty neat.
Hey there, Geoholics. Let's talk about safety apparel. Born from the lack of quality and functional gear in the safety industry and frustrated to find no other options, Matthew Stansberry has reinvented survey apparel with the highest quality materials and most functional and versatile vest the survey industry has ever seen. They call it the Party Chief. Safety apparel offers ANSI CSA compliant, high visibility survey and construction vest and reflective traffic control gloves, hats, stickers, and patches. With many applied options, including but not limited to silkscreen, sublimation, patches, embroidery, and heat transferred images, they can provide your company with the clothing and art you need to look sharp and professional. Send Matt an email with your needs, and he will do his best to get you headed in the right direction. Look him up, info@safetyapparel.us.
So you guys are in a unique position. I'm curious, from what you see, and obviously I'm sure you have a few in mind, but the more successful like peer survey companies, what do you see that they're doing different than maybe what others are doing?
Well, on a geomatic side, what I really see, and sometimes it's a little sad to see that not all of our professional colleagues have adapted to something as simple as line work, where they're actually using line coding. I can remember in 2000, field to finish. We've all heard that term over and over and over. It doesn't really mean anything anymore. But there were other softwares years ago that you could code things and bring it into the office, and voila, my line work is connected. And it's unfortunate, but I see it all over the country. You still will get surveyors tell you, "Oh, my CAD guy connect the dots faster than the guys can collect it in the field."
No.
Yep.
Nope.
And it's like that's a scary thought that they really think that. Now, maybe in a small market, if I just did farm surveys and I'm not really doing heavy topo for a DOT project or any kind of infrastructure work, I get it. Maybe you only took 10 topo shots, probably not a big deal. But the companies that are really successful really streamline that process, fine tune it, and really make sure that you don't have 4 different code lists floating around out there. This party chief calls edge of pavement EP, and this guy calls it edge of oil. Don't hear that term very much anymore, but different codes, different line command codes. The companies that streamline that process, because they can scale so much better. We're in our industry. I'm sure you guys have seen this. Big firms are buying other firms up right and left. In our industry, it's there. We could think of a lot of big companies that are acquiring smaller firms, and they always struggle initially because you got that culture clash going on of, well, we're this brand, well, we're this brand, or this is our code list. We've been using it for 20 years, but your economy of scale goes away if everybody does their own thing. So the really successful places say, hey, we've got a process, we're streamlining it. Our workflow is going to be consistent across all segments, all divisions, all offices, whatever it is, and they can go after bigger work that way, and because they're more efficient overall. So to me, the success is really that workflow of standardizing codes, line coding, whatever that may be, and really streamlining that, getting the data from the field to the office in the fastest possible way. Whether that's uploading, all the manufacturers have been doing this for years, and some customers use Dropbox or whatever it is. But the days of, hey, we can't start drawing this topo till you physically drive back to the office, download the file, and we can start working on it. We got an Alta, we got a deadline that's really tight. Hey, there's no reason for me to drive back to the office to give you the data. We live in a different age nowadays, and yet you still see customers like, oh, that's going to cost me $50 a month for that service. Oh my gosh.
You know how old I am for surveying? I just realized.
Yeah.
I remember when my party chief would get beeped, and we'd have to go find a payphone to call the office.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh my God. So Brian, hold on. I'm going to ask you the same question I just asked Craig, because I want to get your perspective. But before I do, I think this is a unique opportunity. So Craig, I have to believe that, like myself, when you first started in the business, and maybe Russ, you as well, maybe you, Brian, everything was a 3-person survey crew, right? And, now, Craig mentioned robotics a handful of times there. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of things we can do with a 1-person survey crew. But at the same time, that's not helping the future of the profession. What are your thoughts on that, Craig?
I feel a little lucky. And early in my career, the company I worked for bought a geometry robot. It was the only robot out there. I got that in 1996, I think. We went full robotic, and it was very cutting edge. I would have other crews pull over on the side of the road when I was working, and it's an orange instrument. It stood out very easily. Everybody knew what it was. I had a couple owners stop. I had a guy come out in the middle of a median with me once. he was an owner of this large firm, and he was asking me all kinds of questions about where's your helper?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I did have a second person on my crew. It was a 2-man crew, but seasonal fluctuations. I usually got the intern in the summer. I would get some typically university kid is in his first or second semester maybe. And, I could walk around with him. You hold the rod. Let's talk about how we collect topo. Why do we need one more ground shot right before this head wall? Because we want to get good break lines. And you weren't just standing behind the gun yelling at a guy or putting him behind the gun and hoping he was actually measuring to you in the prism and wondering what he was doing all the time. You really worked as a team. No more radios. I didn't have to keep getting on the radio and say, what did you say again? What was that shot? You really were able to mentor really well with robotic technology, and RTK is kind of the same way. There was a fear. I feel like when robotics really took off, oh my gosh, you're going to put the instrument guy out of a job. We're going to get rid of surveyors by using technology. And, lo and behold, that is not what happened. Some, like as you mentioned earlier, surveyors are introverts. Some of them like working by themselves. And for a one-man shop, if it's just licensed guy he doesn't want to have employees, he wants to go do his own work, totally fine. But overall in the profession, that technology really would let you mentor if you used it properly.
Sure.
Don't go sit in the truck and tell your guy, I got there and topo that 40 acres and I got to, check my notes, take a nap.
That sounds like that might be experience there, Craig.
Well, when you found out I could just sit here and I'm going to draw a really nice sketch. I got really good at making pretty sketches so the guys could
get some experience out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Brian, kind of back to the original question. From your perspective, what are the more successful or progressive survey companies doing differently than maybe some of the others?
I mean, I think when you look at the most successful firms, they're basically leveraging not just reality capture, but all the technologies that are available to them, and they're using them to their advantage to basically either create new service offerings, right? Or to create some kind of advantage over their competitors, right? They're trying to create better products for their clients, and they're trying to differentiate themselves from all of their competitors, right? And like Craig said earlier on, I mean, you see all these companies across the U.S. that are just acquiring all these small firms everywhere, and it's almost like it's a race to see who can get to where they want to be faster than somebody else. I mean, some of these firms are growing so fast, I think it's going to be harder for them to keep up with all the changes that they're having, right? And I think that's where possibly some of the medium-sized firms, that aren't growing as fast or just growing naturally, by attrition and everything else, might have a little bit of advantage, right? Because they're not having to go through some of those pains.
Yep.
And like I said, if they're truly leveraging all those technologies, I think that's what truly sets them apart from other people. So,
yeah. Russ, what's your perspective?
So I always there's a scene in Apollo 13, the movie, right, where they give all the stuff, right, that the astronauts have, and they give it to the engineers, and they're like, we have to make it do this, right?
Oh yeah.
So I like to look at Langham. We have a lot of Leica products, software and hardware, and I like to look at all of it, and I try to figure out. And I drive these guys crazy, whether it's Seth or Kyle Palmer or whatever, and then try to literally do what Brian said, figure out how to either come up with new products or to do it faster, come up with a workflow no one else has. So it basically described what I try to do. And Leica has a lot of different software and hardware to do that with. And
that's the beautiful thing, Russ, is Leica creates the equipment, right? But our customers are the ones that truly innovate with it. And going back to what Craig said earlier, that's where we can learn from our customers, right? That's where when we go out and we sit down with a lot of our customers and we're like, wait a minute, how are you using that? And because we can take that information back and we're like, wow, I never imagined, really doing what you guys are doing from that perspective. So I think it all comes hand in hand, really.
And that's always the fun part, when anybody, I think, that designs a product, they have an intended use of how that tool is going to be used. Who knew you could pound hubs with a machete? But if you get
We're losing
really
Craig.
good at it,
At least it froze on a nice picture.
Yeah, Craig. If you can hear us, maybe log out and log. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Yeah, you're good now. You froze up.
Oh, yeah. All right. Sorry.
You're good.
I think my computer is trying to reboot or something.
Technology. So another unique perspective I think you guys have, and Russ, I'll have you chime in on this as well. Like we're always talking about the next generation of surveyor and what that person is going to look like, what skill set they're going to have in order to be successful because of the advancement of technology, that type thing. But at the same time, you have to have a lot of the traditional knowledge. What do you think? What's some advice that you would give to somebody who is maybe just getting into the field of surveying, and what they should kind of focus on to make sure that they're set up for success? And Brian, I'll let you go first.
Well, I'm glad you let me go first because it just so happens that I have a son who is now a crew chief as a surveyor.
Nice.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when he was first going to school, he was going for construction management, and he took one of his mandatory survey classes, and I'll never forget. He came home. He's like, "Dad, I actually think I want to be a surveyor." And I'm like, that's awesome. Do what you think you want to do. But my advice to him was, hey, listen, there's a shortage on not just surveyors, but licensed land surveyors. And, the more that you can do with your career to not only help yourself, but help the profession, the better off you're going to be. And I think, one of the things that a lot of young people don't understand, and I think that us as surveyors don't really do a very good job of, is we don't really go out and show off our technology, because that's what the younger generation is really, that's what they're all about. They play video games that are way better than the video games that all of us ever played, right?
Yep.
So true.
And I think, the other thing too is a lot of them don't realize that, sometimes there's travel involved. I mean, my son is very fortunate. He's not married. He's got a dog, but he's been to Alaska. He's been to Oregon. He's been to American Samoa. He's been down in Central America, all for surveying, right? So I don't think people really realize that, hey, you're not just stuck to, working in Indianapolis, Indiana, or Cincinnati, Ohio, or, conversely of that, I think you also have to look at, COVID taught everybody a lot, because now we realize that we don't necessarily have to have everybody located in the same location, right? We can work and we can hire people in California, even though we're an Ohio-based firm that can do work for us. And I think that's the type of stuff that, in my mind, we need to start showing the younger generation to get them involved, because I think when everybody looks at it, they just think of a guy standing on the side of the road looking through a scope and another guy out there holding a rod. They're like, I don't really want to work outside. And it's like, well, that's not really what the job's all about, right? There's so much more to it. And I think if we started flying drones around, or, pulling out a mobile mapping system, we're like, look, you can just drive down the road and then you can be back in the office and pulling out line work all in the same day. I think we could probably do a much better job at getting some of these people more involved in the profession, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And what I tell people, and you touched on it there, it's like it's a universal skill set. If you can learn it, you can go wherever you want, anywhere in the world, and work and provide tremendous value. I'm going to have Craig go last. So Russ, what do you think?
So I also have a son that just started recently land surveying as well. My wife, we've been together for 20 something years. So since I was in the field as a rodman, and so she was doing the laundry and pulled the ready markers out, and then she got teary eyed because it was like when we were first, when I was that age. So it was kind of cool. I think
he's getting choked up here.
No.
This is great.
I'm a little emotional.
I love it, Russ.
I'm not afraid to cry, but I'm not right now. So I agree. I think we need to show that stuff off. I think it's going to be a lot like manufacturing. You lose positions. I think that's the reluctance, that same argument, like, oh, it's going to kill the instrument man position or rod man or whatever, or note keeper. You're getting a more, every time you absorb more skills and it becomes more technical, the job is worth more money, just like in manufacturing, right? You have to have more technical knowledge. So you have that part of it. And then I think that is the part we have to embrace is showing this to younger people. That's what they want to fly drones. They want to scan stuff, like they want to do all that stuff. And so we have to show that to them, as well as work in the field, be alone. If you like nature, surveying encompasses so much, and there's many little facets and niches that you can fit in. I agree. I am of the philosophy, and this is kind of where I was saying, instead of scanning as a product, you can also just scan kind of as a service. Whereas what I mean by that is, we could go out and capture 3 sites with the TRK, right? And then simultaneously distribute that and have them all worked on concurrently. Versus if you had one crew, you'd have to go in an orderly fashion and go and shoot each site and then, draft it. So I think leveraging drones and reality capture and laser scanners in that sense, you can look at it through a different lens. And I know that's where I'm trying to go with it, is more of a scan and then digitally survey in my office, as it's an option that's out there now. Yeah,
100%, no doubt. Thanks for that, Russ. How about you, Craig? What are you, from your perspective, what does the next generation of surveyor need to be really good at?
I think, in general, they need to be good at saying yes. When you get opportunities to try new technology, I've never done this kind of survey before. I don't know how we're going to get this data from point A to point B. How we're going to measure that weird object that we don't even know what it is. Surveyors get hired all the time to go into a plant, to go whatever the project may be, and they have to collect very critical data to make some intelligent decisions about a design repair or new build or whatever it is. So, they need to say, hey, I'm a professional measurer. I may have never measured this object before, but, I bet there's a way to do it. And I think for the youngers, to get, obviously the technology does bring the youngsters in, as it were. But I think we also need to do a better job as a profession explaining how our data is used. Why are we collecting this flood mapping data? What's the result of that? Well, we're going to make better decisions so we get people out of a coastal erosion area or whatever. We're protecting some wild habitat. Our data gets used in so many ways. Safer roads, more intelligent transportation systems, all these things that are, it's like I'm still just collecting X, Y's, and Z's out here, but we're the foundation that makes these engineering projects really go. Mm-hmm. They can be a great design, but if they start with a bad topo, it goes downhill fast. So mm-hmm. I think really letting people know that, gosh, we touch so many different engineering disciplines, environmental studies, archaeological studies, whatever it is. Our data gets used all kinds of cool ways. And it's kind of neat to think the things that I do can affect so many other people in positive ways.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful stuff right there. All right, we're an hour in already, so I want to be respectful of your time. I have one more question for each of you, Brian and Craig. And Brian, I'll let you go first. What is the one thing that you would want our listeners to know about Leica Geosystems?
Oh, that's a good one. I guess from my perspective, I would say that here at Leica, and I think I kind of touched on it earlier on about, why I came over here is because, interacting with some of the people on the reality capture side and seeing how knowledgeable they were and how respected they were within the community. I think that our people here are honestly our greatest asset. Our team members, like we said earlier, they're not just salespeople, right? They're like a consultant. And they honestly care about the customers and honestly want them to be successful. And I'm not saying that other people, don't necessarily either, but, there's been many times, back, and I'm just going to look at it from the reality capture side. Like when I was selling mobile mapping and scanners and handheld scanners, and everything else, right? Because all of our reality capture guys sell all that. If they go in and somebody's interested in one thing, they don't just focus on that and try and sell that to them, right? They listen to them. And if that's really not the best product for them, then they'll let them know. They'll say, listen, I know you really want to see this, but honestly, that might not be the best thing. It might be that, if you're collecting 10 miles of roadway every day of the week, that you really might want a mobile mapping system. Or, if you're, inside of buildings and all you're really doing is capturing existing conditions for, architects, and you only got to be plus or minus a couple centimeters. Maybe you don't need this high accuracy terrestrial scanner. Mm-hmm. Maybe you only need a handheld mobile mapping system, because you'll be able to collect data way faster. So I think that's the thing that a lot of our guys bring to the table. And like I said, that, like Craig said earlier, that's why we focus on finding people that are professionals in the industry, that have the right, I guess you could say, characteristics to be a salesperson, because we can teach people the sales side of things. And I'm not shortcutting it. There's a lot to it. Like I was at Leica for 2 years before I finally sat back and I was like, man, I actually kind of get what I'm doing now here. It really took a while, but I enjoy this side of the business, because I have learned more from my customers than I would have ever learned on the other side, just doing it on my own, or, going to tech industries or whatever else. You definitely do learn a lot on this side of the business. And like I said, I think that's probably my biggest thing is just our people.
Yep. Great answer. Craig, I'm going to let you have the final word on that one.
Yeah, Brian wore me out. Now I forgot the question.
Just like, what are a couple of things you want people to know and about Leica?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Well, we have a tagline when it has to be right. And we get ribbed a lot by our fellow competitors or whatever it is. I would just say that is the philosophy at Leica. We're always striving as a manufacturer to make whatever product we're working on to be that much better, that much more accurate. We all know, hopefully we all learned early on in our surveying career, that every measurement has error. That's drilled into us, so early on. And if there's already some error in your measurement, don't you want to use the most accurate instrument you can get? Because you're going to have error in that measurement anyway. We know that. Why would I accept something that's good enough? And whether that's in a tape measure, whether it's in a total station, a digital level, whatever that piece of equipment is, as a professional measurement expert, why wouldn't you want the best? And there's a reason why our products are not the cheapest thing on the market. You can always make a widget cheaper and faster by cutting corners and saving whatever, somewhere here and there. Leica doesn't do that. Our stuff lasts a long time. It's built, quality built. There's a reason you pay for it, because you want the best measurements. So I guess that's the one thing I would want people to know is this gear really is as good as we say it is. Give it a try.
Yeah. Well said. Russ, you got anything else to add? Anything else?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like too much of a fanboy, but I mean, obviously, I've been using Leica equipment. I've been surveying for a couple decades, and and beyond even at Langen, the TS12, I think was my first. Was that the first one with the optical plummet? I mean, the laser plummet. That one was whatever one. Maybe it was and that was for steel layout. That was so awesome to slide it over. Leica, my interaction with everyone that works at Leica, even if it isn't their job to someone like Jonathan Ifa, who is a support for mobile, but if I have questions that he's very knowledgeable about 3DR scripts, more than happy to take time out of his day to help me or point me in the right direction. Everyone that I interact with at Leica is like that. And it's really great. They help you come up with solutions. You bounce things off of them. If they don't know the answer, they'll look into it. It's really great. The support is top notch. All you guys do a fantastic job.
Yeah. Well said, Russ. That was one of the things I was going to ask is about the support. So you covered that as well. So I appreciate that. And very few people know that back in 2008, when the economy kind of tanked here in the Arizona area, well, across the country for the most part, but Arizona in particular, I actually sold Leica gear for about 8 months for a local distributor, and got to learn so much about it. Got to have tons of hands-on experience, and we talked about it earlier. It's just so well built. The optics are still second to none in many ways, and you guys have reason to be proud of your products for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Before we let you get out of here, we have one last question. It's kind of a fun one, but we've asked it to every single one of our guests from episode 1. And Brian, I'm going to let you go first. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
Do the right thing.
Like it. Can't go wrong with that one, right?
It goes back to my days with my former company. That was kind of their mantra as a civil survey firm, is just always do the right thing, whether or not it may be the correct thing, right? Like there could be something that you could have battled something out in court, and you probably could have won, but in the end you just do the right thing. And I think as long as you live by that mantra, I'm a big believer in karma, and as long as I'm doing the right thing, I believe that karma is always going to take care of me as well. So
yep, 1,000%. I agree with you with that for sure. How about you, Craig?
I think for me, it's, stay inquisitive, always be learning. I feel like, this world's a big place. The things that we do in our profession, we all individually focus on little aspects of it. There's always something you can learn. And, if you're inquisitive, that just keeps your mind sharp, keeps you going, make it fun to get out of bed every morning, because you can learn something new each day. And, maybe just incremental things, a little step by step. But you look back in a year or 2 years, you're like, wow, I never thought I could process this data as quick as I can now. But yeah, just stay inquisitive.
Stay inquisitive. Love it. Really good. All right, guys. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. This has been a great conversation. Anything else you want to get out there before we let you go?
I just want to agree with Russ that I was in Panama back in 1992 or 3, and beautiful country.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. So I agree with you. I mean, I back then there were still bullet holes in the buildings from the war. But, it was a beautiful country. So.
Yeah. I would just like to say thank you to all of our veterans. We're coming up on Veterans Day. Brian is a veteran, U.S. Army veteran, and I just, thanks to all the men and women that wear the uniform today, have worn the uniform. We have a lot of veterans at Leica, so hats off to those folks that are around. And thank you, veterans.
Yeah, that hat is dope. That's a camo Leica hat. Did you make that, or is that official?
Oh no, it's some of our guys have them and they hand them out. I'll get you one, Russ.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. I don't get a mantra. I'm chock full of them.
Russ, all right, we'll give you a shot.
How about there is no knowledge that is not power? And that is an Emerson quote.
That's a good one.
That's an Emerson quote.
I like that one, Russ.
And also, it's also Raiden said it in Mortal Kombat 3. And if you knew that, you are my friend for life. I forgot my Mac, so it does the things when I had to take it back.
Oh my gosh! Next time we ask the sandwich question, by the way, Russ, we're going to include
bologna and
tuna
cheese
wrap out of a vending machine. Yeah, we're going to add that one to
Listen,
it next time.
I crawled so others can walk. All right.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna take us out here. I know you can't hear the music, so it's gonna sound funny, but here we go. Again, thank you for your time.
Right. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
you bet.
You. Appreciate it.
All right, adding value and making friends. Check the boxes. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. The police next to you, available everywhere. Lot of takeaways on this one. Until next time, Leica Geospatial falls under the Hexagon umbrella. Clear that up. Always be learning. Do the right thing. There is no knowledge that is not power. And Leica when it has to be right. as always, most importantly, be safe and healthy.